I love the movie Castaway, and the most interesting scene for me is when he gets on the raft and starts rowing it out, and he gets through the waves and he's finally out into open ocean. He's been trying to do this for like 4 years. That seems like the fun part, but the harder part, I think, is being out in open ocean where you can't see anything, you don't know if anything's coming to save you, and you're just stuck out in the middle of the ocean. My name's Ethan, I'm from Noise Pilot, and I love analogies. And this kind of sums up where I'm at in my career, I think. Maybe in a year's time I might see this and go, oh, I've progressed. Things have changed and for the better. I think the reason why I like that analogy is because it reminds me a lot of the millions of projects that I've tried to start over the years. I see that a lot like that situation where you're on the beach and you're trying to get that ship you've just built over the waves. A lot of projects like that where you start out and it's exciting, and the thrill of getting it out and pushed out into the public space, I guess, is the fun part. And then you kind of run out of steam. For a podcast or a band or really anything, a Facebook page, for example, you have built up all this content, you've got your graphic design sorted, you've got your username handles, and you go, oh, this is so exciting, I'm finally doing it. And then you kind of realise, when I post, I get like 1 or 2 likes. It doesn't go very far. I guess the story usually goes, it dies in the arse. What then seems to happen is the cringe sets in. You kind of realise, no one's getting around this. I'm kind of doing it on my own, and now I'm starting to feel really self-conscious of the fact I'm trying to put something out there. That is the hardest part. You're out in open ocean, and there's no landmarks for you to see, or you don't know what's going to come next or where it's going to come from. You are just completely out on your own. That's when you go, all right, well, pack it in. I know that I'm not too far from the shore. I'll just bring it all back and try again. The problem with that is that you never stick around long enough to find out if it'd work. All those things that are left on the cutting room floor, they probably were cringy. They probably were not going to work at the time. But if I'd have iterated and kept going with it and kept building on it somehow, maybe in a year's time it would have turned into something where I felt confident enough to keep going with it. And then I wouldn't have 50 dead projects. I'd have one that I'd built into something and feel more comfortable in sticking with that. So instead of being 29 and just starting a project, I would have been 18 or 17 making a bunch of stuff, and then by this age I would have had 10 years worth of content. That's great in hindsight, but we don't always have that. The best advice I think for me and anyone else who's starting out, we're all in the same boat together, and I think the best thing I now realise is to stick with it, even though it feels crap and cringy and it's not going as fast as you want. I'm now becoming a lot more comfortable with that feeling of sitting with a project through what I would consider the cringe thing. I've got Noise Pilot here. I had no idea what it was when it started. I've only now started to turn it into this podcast network to try and get some other Perth content creators around. It has an identity now, and if I had have scrapped it, I would never have known what I could turn it into or how I could try and motivate myself into turning it into something. I've got Cav Hudson, my music project. I really winced at the fact that I've got like an alter ego as a name, but my name's really hard to spell, and I just thought it would be cool to have an alter ego, but people call me Kev, so it's never going to work the way you want it to. But I'm now adamant that I would rather see what it's like to get through that cringe stage, push through, keep putting content out in that same space and build it into something. Chapel Roan is such a good example of that, I think. I really love the story of that. That video of her in a park, literally in the middle of the day, with just a keyboard and a few people watching. I've played many a gig like that. It turned into something that wasn't cringy because other people got around it and they stuck through it to get to that point where Tom Hanks finally sees the ship come past, where they come and grab him. And so that's what I'm kind of expecting out of this, is not a lot, but a lot. What I am expecting is a lot more determination in sticking through this and seeing what happens the longer I stay in these projects that, maybe 5 years ago I wouldn't have had the gumption to keep them this long. They would have died, and it would have had to start again, and then no progress would have been made, and you're stuck in a wheel. So There's my advice to myself and maybe to you as well. If you have a project you've just started and you're not too confident on it, if you don't know what to do when you're starting, I think the best thing you can possibly do is start and stick with it and grab onto it as long as humanly possible, because you don't know what it's going to look like until it flourishes and comes out of the ground. Let's see if that happens this time.